This is Bob, and he's agreed to answer the 3 dream questions. Are you ready, Bob?
I'm ready, and I'm excited.
Oh, good. So am I. Our conversation's been really good. Anyway, the first question is, what are your hopes and dreams? What are your aspirations for?
Okay. Well, number one, we have a precious human birth, and I personally believe in when we die, the energy body or your spirit leaves the physical body. And as my yoga teacher said, the physical body is bananas, pizza, and ice cream, and that goes back into compost. But the energy body goes out into who knows where, and the traditional yogic philosophy is that until you deal with all your issues, eventually you become enlightened. And to become enlightened means no more issues. Who knows? You go into the entire universe. But let's say you were bad here, and so I want to be healthy as long as I can. And when I'm sick, like Chief Dan George in Little Big Man, that movie, he said, well, I think I'm ready to die. And he went up on the hill. And he didn't die, but today I visited a dear friend in Rutland. And he's in a care where it's one flew over the cuckoo's nest. Nutso people screaming. He can't talk, he had a tracheotomy. And at that point, I would check out. So, being healthy in this beautiful world, and time is just a concept, really. If we were on Mars, a day would be different than it is here. But I want to be healthy, and therefore, when you're healthy, you feel good. You're happy, and you can not only be happy for yourself, but for your family and friends and the community. So that's what I hope.
So the relationship between I'll use the terms that I grew up with, between the body and the spirit, or the body and the being.
I grew up in a traditional middle class, I call it Victorian, a Victorian silver plates. You carved the silver. There was etiquette. Go to dance school with white gloves. I mean, that whole upbringing of the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Well, the 60s changed. But I feel blessed that I've had 2 or 3 different lifetimes in this one lifetime, so I have a perspective now. I can live out in the woods by myself and love it. And create some kind of little shelter out of leaves and eat mushrooms and berries. Or I can be at the Yale Club talking to Lord Thompson of Fleet when I was in London. He was Thompson Newspapers, and had breakfast with him, and his secretary would come in the 60s. All the women had mini skirts. And the saying was, they're just above sea level. Especially when you came on the up escalator. So, I was still I had no sex training, even though my dad was a urologist, so figure that. So, to answer the question, I want to be healthy, to be a happy person, and then I can help others to just be the basic goodness that we all have in our DNA. I think that would be it.
So that's in here, and the reason I mentioned the spiritual, because it sounds like you want to be happy and healthy in this life, but in preparation, is there a preparation for the next incarnation or the next?
There's all kinds of, the Christians say if you're good, you're going to go to heaven, and if you're bad, you go to hell. The yogic, which is a practice, not a religion. The Hinduism is attached to yoga, but they're actually separate.
Mm.
Yoga is a practice. And the practice is, number one, you stay clean, you take care of yourself, then you take care of your friends, and ultimately, as a Buddhist, as a bodhisattva, your mission is to help others.
Yeah.
So all of that combined, like I had to go to church till I was 16, and then they said you don't have to go to church. Well, I love Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
I still love Christmas. Christmas trees, everything. And it's the Christmas spirit of giving and the music. But Christ as my Savior, no, I don't want to be saved. I was born, and I don't have to be saved, and I don't have to pay money to be saved.
Mm.
Heaven is actually right here, right now. Cool. So, whatever.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a question about a little more general. If you could, do you have any wish or hope for the larger community? Is there something, if you could say it in 2 or 3 sentences or something, what would you envision for? I
would hope that somehow, and part of my vision is with my spruce who teaches climate science, is that we come together as a species to realize that we have to save the earth, which is our mother. If we despoil the earth, the next 50 years, like 2 million species will disappear because they can't survive. And we're just one of those species. If we really look at it, we think we're better than everything else, but we're not.
Yeah.
So I hope to be alive when Madrona, who's just 5, my granddaughter, named after the Madrona trees of the Pacific Northwest, I'd love to be around when she gets married.
Yeah.
And to be there and dance at the reception.
Oh, I love that.
And maybe do the Charleston.
That's beautiful.
Or the Boogie Woogie.
Yeah, is it okay if we mention your age?
Right now? I'm 81. I'll be 81 on Thursday.
Amazing. Fountain of Youth.
But again, it's a concept, but I have to credit, 83, 90, 103, 113, 45 years of being given the instructions of how to be healthy.
Okay, cool.
As opposed to taking drugs and eating crappy food.
Do you remember some of your dreams when you were a kid? Did you have some things that you wanted to do in life?
Oh, the dreams. That was the interesting thing. I didn't know exactly what I was going to be. I really didn't. My father wanted me to be an engineer. And he said, you don't want to be a doctor because it's just too difficult. But he was a doctor of the old school, where he had 3 generations, and time after time people would come in, and I'm sure he gave some kind of sex education, because you're a urologist, you're dealing with that area. Drink plenty of water, get plenty of rest, and have 1 good glass of scotch, but just 1. And that will help you feel good about yourself and take plenty of rest. Okay. That's basically yoga.
Yeah.
Right? Good food, relaxation, deep breathing, blah, blah, blah.
And a cleanser every once in a while.
Yeah.
Cool. If you could go back and talk to your adolescent self, is there something that you would say to yourself?
Well, I wouldn't be so I guess I was a split personality, because I was a very obedient. I'll tell you a story. I could get away with anything because people thought I was so honest and modest. But somehow I always have this kind of funny, I do have a very funny offbeat sense of humor. For instance, in the 7th grade, our science teacher, we made fun of him. And we called his wife Molly Kuehl. Her first name was Molly Kuehl. And we had, we could get up, we had experiments we could bring to class at a particular time. So a friend of mine, whose dad was a magician, I got some kind of phosphorus paper or something like that, whatever it was. So I got in front of the class, and I had a ball jar. And I said, okay, I'm catching the oxygen in the air, and then I put a top on it. And they said, no, I got oxygen here, and I'm going to put this paper in here. It's going to absorb the oxygen. And then, I forget with a match, and it would go like oxygen burning. Well, everybody was laughing because they knew it was going to be, but Dr. Nicholson thought it was serious, whatever. It was something like that. And another time, Packer was the girls' school, kind of for poly boys. My dad went to poly, my mother went to Packer.
So you went to poly?
Yeah. Every Christmas they had a carol sing, and the poly boys were invited to Packer. And 2 friends of mine and I got 2 mice and 2 canaries and snuck them into the concert. And we let go one mouse, and the mouse actually went up on the lectern where Dr. Schaefer was. Directly. And everybody was. And one of the canaries we let go flew into the organ in one of the pipes, and so this was a big deal. So the next day or whenever we met, the football coach and the physics teacher, Fred Tuttle, who actually had dated my mother, said, okay, who's responsible? Well, I had to raise my hand. And I had to go down to the lady who led the choir at Packer and apologize. And boy, did I get ripped apart. What's happening to boys these days? They just have no respect, blah, blah, blah. And so, when I go back to reunions, they don't remember. They remember, oh, yeah, you had the bird that flew in, It's funny. But I do have a very good sense of humor. So I was Santa Claus Jr. in front of the whole thing, I was in some plays, Mikado. So
if you were going back and you were going to say something to yourself, I interviewed a girl from England who was visiting in Maine, and she was a tourist, and she said if I could go back, I would tell myself to be a little more naughty.
Yeah, well, it's listen to your heart. And everybody's different, and it takes a little bit of time to find yourself. Once you find yourself, then you can go out into a situation or break a rule. Some kind of rule that is kind of somebody made this rule, but it's for their own benefit rather than for everybody,
So you're saying that there are probably some rules out there that are made for the benefit of someone else, but you can still be in integrity with yourself.
And still maybe break them in levels.
Still be in.
There's subtlety.
Yeah.
But the subtlety comes from experience. So all I can say is try something. And if it's considered bad, don't consider it bad. Consider it positive, because it's a lesson. And that's how you learn wisdom. So anything bad can be turned into be positive.
Is there a boundary there?
Well, you don't hurt anybody. The basic golden rule. Gotcha. The basic golden rule is you want to be treated like others. You want to be treated well. Like others, you want to treat others well, like they want to be treated. Yeah. So there's the boundaries of hurting people. Yeah. That's where the motive comes in. What's your motive? If your motive is to have fun, do something you haven't done before, well, try it. If it turns out to be a disaster, well, that's a lesson. And instead of being punished like you're bad, hopefully you're in an environment like, this is a lesson.
Yeah.
So now you're responsible for your actions. And if you do it again and you hurt somebody, that's not so good.
Yeah.
But you'll know it's not so good because you've had that experience. So that's probably one of the main things. Learn from your experience rather than be shut down and, oh, I'm bad.
I think I heard something like, I think the phrase would be, if I don't want to put words in your mouth, is kind of lead with your heart a little bit. Is that kind of what you were?
Your heart, listen to your heart rather than your mind.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen, and I've experienced myself, the mind says, oh, I'm going to do this, and the mind says, and the heart says, no, that's not a good idea. Let's call it your conscience.
Mm.
But one of the persons I met at the yoga retreat had learned Kilian photography from the Russian Kilian. And you could take a picture of your energy field. And there's some books out now. I've loaned a couple of books on auras to some of the... I had a new shoulder put in last year, and I had to go to physical therapy. And a couple fighting, and you take that picture, is static. You take two lovers together, it's a picture of a heart. It's a pattern. And you can start doing muscle testing. And we did muscle testing for music. So some of the hard metal music really knocks your energy field down. Some of the Beatles songs really pick you up. So music is a universal language, and I think intuitively you know if it's really tuning you up, as opposed to
Yeah. Good. So let me just see if I can get it. I'm going to try to tie it up a little bit.
It's probably hard.
We've got follow with your heart, experience things, go out and do some things, step out, get outside of yourself, get outside of some of the rules as long as you're not hurting anybody, and then be careful what you're putting into your body, and be careful what you're putting into your brain, the kind of music you listen to, and the environment that you're choosing for yourself.
Yeah, experience is a very good teacher. And the other thing is, try to be with friends and acquaintances who you feel are actually in that vein. If you end up with a gang, I mean, the gangs now are murder.
Yeah.
The inner city gangs and drugs.
There's that idea of belonging, or belonging to tribes and whatever. It just seems to overrule everything else for some of us.
It's tragic.
Well, thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Much.